Hi, thank you for joining me today. My name is Carrie Waltz and I share tips, tools, and techniques for the artist in you. Today's focus will be looking at what I did in preparation and planning for my Italy trip to let you know if I made a wise decision or not. Right now, I can tell you it was priceless. I cannot believe how well things went. And I want to show you my journal and let you be with me as I complete it in the next few weeks. So, as an artist, when we go out on location, we're not going to finish everything we want to, and we're going to take photographs and make notes to ourselves. It's what we want to do when we get back. And I want to do that while it's fresh on my mind. But I thought, well, while I'm doing that, why don't I just bring you along the journey and let you watch me do it? And maybe it'll inspire you to do this next time. I I cannot encourage you enough to give this method a try. And let me just turn the channel or the camera and show you what I mean. As you can see, I've added a little bit to my journal since I left. And one of the things was the Paint by Italy decal that Michelle gave each of us fit great right here. And I had this other sticker. It says, "You don't always need a plan, just go." And I thought that was kind of ironic since I planned so much for this trip. There's a time and place for this. But if I just went without doing the planning that I had done before, to me, the preparation and planning was priceless. It allowed me to paint more and to be more playful. So I'm going to skip this first part that I showed you in the previous video. You're welcome to go back and look at that if you want. This was the first day we were in Rome, and the scrapbook thing is just so helpful because I saved the tickets, the room card. This was a picture of my name in lights when I was being picked up by a limousine driver. I'll probably never have that experience again. I just wanted to remember that. And sometimes when you're out and about, you come across something that is so overwhelming that it's like, I don't want to paint that, draw that. And it was crowded, it was rainy. The Trevi Fountain is right here. I'll put some pictures of the Trevi Fountain up. It's the most famous fountain in Rome. It's the largest, and 20 by 26 meters, 20 by 20 meters wide, 20 meters high. I had to add some little trivia to the side. But instead of doing the fountain, drawing the fountain, I decided, well, I'm going to put some people in my sketch, and I'm going to draw people coming and going to the Trevi Fountain that evening after it rained. So pick and choose your battles, what you want to do. This was done in gouache. The next morning, we hadn't left Rome yet, and we went out and explored, and I just chose a corner of a building. We were near the Pantheon, and I didn't want to take the time to draw that either. I might do that later in my journal, but we weren't spending a lot of time there. And the croissant and cappuccino was calling my name. And it did the same in Cortona. And so when you have a layout, when you have a layout of another picture in your journal, I really like to have them on the same format. If this is a portrait, I want to have this portrait. I don't always do that, but I thought, well, I'll just balance this one. So when you can balance them, I just picked another tower that was near where I was having my morning snack. Everyone was enjoying some form of coffee. And then I just decided I would leave it empty over here, and I would put in the September later. So sometimes when you have a chance and you can balance the two together, I think it's a good idea. This one was just a vignette of the oldest door in Siena. And I didn't want to spend a whole lot of time on it, but I wanted to kind of get the feel of the stonework, the direction of the stones, the irregularity of the stones. It was fun. One of the things I love about my planning is everything I took would fit in here as far as my art is concerned. Nothing was wider than 5 inches. This is a 5 by 5 inch multimedia artboard. It was done on a demo in gouache. I was following Michelle paint it. And because it's small enough, that's one reason why I chose this journal, is it would hold 5 by 7 sheets of paper, and 5 by 7 is the largest I took. So this was just an example. This is glued in. I painted it separate so you didn't have the hassle of holding or balancing your sketchbook while you were doing a demo. So that I really, really like. And again, the sketchbook or the scrapbook part, here's the tickets to the tours that we went on in Florence. And I missed my 41st anniversary with Brad, but we celebrated early, so I just had to include that because that's an important day for me. And you have to, if you see David, you've got to include David in your journal. At least I did. Thought it was funny Michelangelo didn't have a model for him because no one was perfect enough. This was one of the first sit-down plein air views that I did. And I was so glad I had my stool. I'll go over the art supplies that I took later, but having a stool where you can sit anywhere was very helpful. And this was some things from a pamphlet that was there that I just glued in as a reminder. This sketch, I probably spent more time on this sketch than anything else in this journal because I had the time. Hillary and I lucked out on an outdoor patio table, the only table outside this restaurant, and we were able to sit and enjoy cappuccinos and croissants. I can't remember all else. We even ordered a tiramisu, which was yum. But when you have the time to sit and relax and be comfortable, take the time to sit and relax and be comfortable. And I could draw with accuracy. This side facing me was all in shade, and I wanted this to feel warm in the light. So I put a very thin light coat of a pale warm yellow. And so there's no pure white of the paper, but it's very close to that. So, and in all reality, I probably could have left this off and it would have been a better composition just between this. This kind of pulled your eye off the canvas, but it's a sketchbook. So if I painted this when I get home, I might not include that and just let it disappear off the canvas. I don't know. But again, this is collecting memories. This is not, my focus was not on composition, if that makes sense. You focus on what you want to. I wasn't focusing on composition. This was started in watercolor. I tried different things. Your sketchbook is a place for you to experiment. I started this in just watercolor. There was no pen, there was no pencil, and I just looked for the different colors, how wide the tower was, and when it was dry, which didn't take long, then I added the pen work. This was another gouache piece, but this one is on watercolor paper. I think you can see the texture, but one of the things I did pick up in one of the stores was some watercolor postcards. So it was fun to have that so that I could do some smaller ones that were not on multimedia artboard, because I really don't like watercolor on multimedia artboard. I love gouache on it, but anyway, that was fun with that. This, embrace what happens. I was sitting, actually, my sketchbook was like this, and I was looking that way at a tower. I was trying to get the angle of this crazy clock tower, and I realized once I drew it, oops, it's upside down. So I just embraced it. I drew our water bottle, I drew the logo of the restaurant, and I wrote Arezzo upside down. I didn't care. It's a memory. I have all sorts of memories from this day. It was a fun day. And we went to a vineyard. They served their cappuccinos in bone china. This is where, if you're, this was important to me. I wanted this to be the forefront. The table was kind of a white wrought iron table. I just wanted it suggested. And then there was this wall that kind of blocked your view of this. And I could have put the wall that had the geranium pots on it, but sometimes just ignore what's there, and I just put the distant hillside behind it, and I think that tells a better story. So sometimes leaving things out is a good thing. These two I painted when I got home. It was from leftover gouache on a palette paper, but there were olive trees all around, and I do like the edge taped off. I brought some tape with me on the trip, but I never really took the time to tape. I think I taped off one painting, and you'll see that in a minute. But taping things off, I want to make sure they're even, and sometimes on the go, I just don't want to take the time. And I love my morning walks in the morning, and if we weren't on an early morning schedule, I usually took one, and you could see little bitty reflections of light reflecting off that's Cortona on the mountainside. But what I really loved in this one is the long morning shadows across the farmland. So I'm glad that I was able to fill this in when I got home. This was a 15-minute sketch I was standing facing the valley of Cortona, or from Cortona facing the valley, and I had 15 minutes. There was just embraced the moment. I only had a few minutes, so I just indicated rather than illustrated. That was an important focus this week. I was focusing kind of on the dark shadows under the geraniums that connected to the darkness in the window. It's nice to leave a vignette, gives you space to breathe. This one I didn't leave as much. I drew this one day. This was the backside of our farmhouse. And I was debating on whether to paint it or not. And I just said, well, I took a picture of it without the paint, and I'll include that in here. But sometimes you just want to leave things in ink. And anyway, I painted it and to kind of go with the stonework over here. So it's okay. I mean, I was happy with it. This was a cluster of grapes that were down the way from where we stayed. There were grapes all over the place, and most of them were harvested by the time we left. This was a neat experience. When I was in Assisi, we were able to tour or get a demonstration from those who worked in the art store. A Gallo is a brand of watercolor paint that's handmade. They're all natural, if at all possible. They have no cobalts or cadmiums in their paint. We got to make the rose madder color. She put it together, and then you worked it on a glass palette, and we got to each make a stamp with the bottom of what you ground the watercolor with. So it was kind of fun. So that was my memory of the watercolor factory. This is when you embrace the oops, that didn't work. I'd gone outside and I'd started a pen and ink sketch of the building that was next to us. There was a tree here, and this was a chimney, and I was this was up, kind of up in the air. You weren't even going to see the bottom of this building. And in the meantime, Michelle decided, I'm going to draw our house and then paint it. Well, I had already painted it, and I didn't want to go back. I didn't want to do it again. So I sat behind them and painted and drew Linda, Michelle, Sharmilla, Hillary, and then Greg was up here painting. So when something doesn't happen or something different than what you planned happens, just go with it. And that's what I did. And I'm just going to leave it as an ink drawing, and it tells the story. And it was also, I was practicing putting people in my drawings. So that's something I want to do more of. It helps tell the story. Even the little things that were down on the ground by their feet, I think is very helpful. And this is another example of embrace when things don't go right. When we were in Siena and we were at the Piazza del Duomo, it was a very detailed, massive building. And it started to rain. That's as far as I got. So I just stopped. And then later in the day, when we were sitting near the Piazza del Campo, where the horse races are, I think 2 times a year, there was this very ornate building beyond, and I was not close enough to get too stuck up in the detail, but I could just kind of get a feel for what it was doing. The archway, that filigree in here, that there were 2 figures in the side, and then there was this wrought iron fence. So to me, that just embraced the day. I didn't matter if rain started and it moved us to another location. That's okay. Let it happen. This is a toast that Michelle had at the beginning of the second week. She had said a toast for the first week's group, but she hadn't written it down. But this one was written down so I could copy it and put it in my journal. We enjoyed Prosecco and wine while we were there, and we collected every bottled cork, even when we were eating out, and brought it back here. So that was just kind of a fun remembrance. And if you don't know, if you want to take the label of whatever you're drinking and transfer it to your journal, Rick, Michelle's husband, who used to be a bartender, taught me this trick. He said, put hot water inside the bottles. Inside the bottles. Don't try to steam it off, but put hot water inside the bottle, and most of the glue will loosen up because it kind of melts. And I was able to peel these off and then just use the glue that was on the back of the label to start with and just press it down. So it was a great way to toast or to remember that memory. So during the week, if some of the things that happened earlier I added to the back of the book, they're not necessarily chronological, but I always dated them. This was on watercolor, on multimedia artboard. It was originally done for a swap, and that's why I did it on multimedia artboard, or I would have put it in my journal. But the joy of having loose paper with you, whether it's watercolor or whatever type it is, something that you can paint on, that gives you the opportunity to give it away, to sell it, to do something other than putting it in your journal. But if that doesn't happen, like the trade that we were going to do with our art didn't happen, then I still had it and I could put it in my journal. The one thinking we might do another swap the week 2, and this was of the gift shop outside of the vineyard in El Falconer. So being able to paint separately and then put it in your journal is also less stressful because you don't have to worry about getting your journal dirty in the process. One of the things that we did is play left, right, center. It's a game that I brought, and it was a lot of fun. Everyone started with €3 or $3 or something, three that they were willing to lose. And we did a lot of cooking in the house. It was just a wonderful trip. I listed everyone that came. I'll miss them all. And then this was some memories of some of my highlights, the advice I had going home. If you do not know about the MPC app for customs coming back into the country, you need to look it up because it is well worth your time and it will save you time in the process. This right here, mobile passport control. This saved me so much time in customs. I got to take the short line in customs and not the long one. So anyway, I just thought I had some colored pens with me. I would go ahead and write some of it in color because I was kind of tired of the black. So I added the blue and red to go with the blue and red that was on the dice. So if you have extra colors of ink and you can play with that in your work, then that's great. Now they are not waterproof. You can see I knew they weren't waterproof, but I wet the inside of these letters and that's just the ink that's been bled out. And this was some of the things that I remembered that made me happy: making new friends, Michelle's happy tears, and creating together. If you've not seen Holy Frit, it's a great movie on the largest stained glass window in the world. Really enjoyed that on my 11.5 hours home. These were still, see what happened here is I'd accidentally skipped a page while I was there. So hey, just fill in when you skip a page. These are 2 of the same views, but 2 different styles. This is a time to experiment. This is with the Elegant Writer. This one took probably less than 5 minutes, and this one took a little bit longer. And it's also a place to learn. It would have been a better composition if I hadn't put the roof. It was kind of distracting, so less is often more. It didn't need a roof. A vignette would have been better. Again, indicate, don't illustrate. These 2 were 2 of my favorites. This was done from Mary's photo. I later went to this area and took my own photos, but I really enjoyed the atmospheric perspective that I captured in this one and that was in her photo. This particular one is the only one while I was there that I taped around to create a border. And when I pulled the tape off and I saw the cypress tree cut off like this, I thought, I'm just going to extend that. And I like the exaggerated depth that I feel like that it gave. So extending beyond the border can sometimes give you a new perspective. This was one of the last ones I tried with Elegant Writer. I love the umbrella trees that were around, and I'm going to do some more of those later. And I was experimenting with the Elegant Writer again by adding some watercolor. I'd never done the 2 together because when you hit the Elegant Writer with moisture, it blurs out. And so, obviously watercolor has moisture in it. So when it touches the ink, it does blur out. So I'm going to play with that a little bit more and see what I can do with that product. It's a lot of fun and it gives you variation. The last thing that was in my journal at this point is a geranium, and what caught my attention was the shadow that it cast. And I just wanted to remember so many potted geraniums that were around our farmhouse. It was just a lovely remembrance. And when you're back and you're looking at all that you did or didn't do, I think I counted 35 sketches or drawings that I had completed while I was gone. I have more now. But I want to decide what I'm going to do with the rest. There's certain things that I wanted to include, because this one's a portrait. I want this one to be a portrait. So I'm going to do a street scene here with the narrow streets and the tall buildings. That just intrigues me, so I want to include some more of that. I wanted to redo the umbrella pines, so I'll put that here. Michelle gave us some great goodies. One, she hand painted a door name for everyone, and so it was hanging on our door as we came to see where we were going to live for a week or two. And a composition finder, a baseball cap with Paint Italy on it, water bottles, gold clips. It was so sweet of her to go above and beyond to take care of that. So I put Post-its here to remind myself what I wanted to put in my journal. The rest, there's just a few pages, but the rest I want to save for some actual photographs of the trip. Some of the places that we went that I did not document in here, especially the people, and because I'm not going to do a bunch of portraits in here. But one of the things I did as the weeks progressed is I started to document just in chronological order where we went, whether Siena by car, we stayed at the farmhouse, went to Florence by train, and just the little bitty highlights that I enjoyed that day. That by means is no, I mean, it's not all inclusive. I couldn't have written enough, but just by jotting down some points of interest in the day helps me keep the day straight. And if you've ever taken a trip or you plan to take a trip, go to the last page of your journal and just jot down the major points of each day and where you were. It'll be so helpful, because I've looked at this multiple times and I ran out of room, so I finished it over on the other page. Another thing that I'm really thankful that my journal had, and I don't think I would have picked this journal if it didn't, is it had a pocket. Some of the things that I want to just mention to you before I close this video is some of the things that I kept in the pocket. I got a postcard from my roommate, Hillary, and our nickname was Harry, Hillary and Carrie together. And we just had a wonderful day at Assisi. It's when we drew the Basilica. Also, I noted things I liked, things I didn't like. It wasn't necessarily I didn't like it. It was different from things in the U.S. or things I was uncomfortable with, just as a reminder. And there were so many more likes. I had them listed. And then I wanted to remind myself what I was really glad I took and things that I brought that I didn't need much, so that in my next trip, I'll have a reference as to what I used, what I didn't use, what I'm so glad I didn't forget, so I don't forget it again. So hopefully there's a lot in this video that will give you ideas for your next trip and allow you to prepare for it so that you're excited about opening your journal and putting something in it. I teach classes in watercolor journaling. You can call it urban sketching if you want to. I think it's slightly different from that. They do more pen. I like a variety, and I love the way to capture memories. And if any of this appeals to you, reach out to me and I'll see if I can come teach a workshop. I'm going to be at the fair this next week at Georgia National Fair. I'm going to be teaching a 2-hour workshop in Forsyth, Georgia in urban sketching. And you can take it wherever it leads you, whatever works for you. This is a visual diary that I will enjoy for years to come. Thanks for joining me today. I hope you continue to tune in as I finish my journal. I'm going to be videoing the paintings that I have left to put in here. And ask me questions, what you'd like to see, what you might not understand, what you struggle with, and I'll see if I can help. That's what I'm here for. So thank you again for following me, giving me likes, writing comments, and helping my channel grow. Thank you. Have a wonderful day.